Welcome to the mill at Green Hole. The mills here are a combination of a small set of fully operational industrial mills and a museum which is both educational and historical in nature. The mills here have always been operated by water power. This is a view of the lower waterfall. The original dam was located just above these falls and gave a drop of about 10 feet to the old wooden water wheel that sent power to the original mills. We're up at the dam, which is located on the highest part of the property, and you can see the water flowing over the dam, cascading over the rocks, down into the canyon and on its way downstream. You can see the power and the movement in the water, and it helps you to understand where water power comes from and how we can put that power to work. Here we have the mill buildings for all of the mills. The earliest mills were put in place in the early 1700s. We don't know exactly what was put here first, but we do know there were mills here at that time. And eventually to the grist mill was added sawmill, cider mill, blacksmith shop, woodworking shop. These buildings were physically apart at one time, but as the entirety of it grew, they came together physically to produce what appears to be one cohesive unit, although it's not cohesive at all. And inside these mills is where the magic of water power takes place. Here we have the powerhouse, which houses the turbine. Now the turbine is the equivalent of a modern day water wheel. We're inside the powerhouse now, which protects the turbine being the heart of the water power operation. And the turbine is in this orange box behind me. It receives its power from the water coming down a silver pipe, which spins the turbine, and that in turn distributes power to the mill machinery. I'm going to open the turbine gates now, and you'll see it start to spin as water flows down through the silver pipe. You'll see the machinery behind me start to spinning also. When I close the floodgates, the water power is shut off, and this will stop the turbine from spinning. When we open the floodgates to the turbine, the water starts spinning the turbine, then it goes into the tail races, which is the canal, and the water flows back into the stream and continues on its way downhill. We're just borrowing the water for a little while. We're now standing below the upper falls. Just above this falls is the location of the second dam that was built, a stone dam that was destroyed in a flood in 1938. The current dam, which is built of reinforced concrete, is also located just above this falls. That dam was built during the 1990s. Right behind me here, you'll see bedrock, and this building was built right onto the bedrock. In the days when the mills were powered by a big old water wheel, water wheels were difficult to balance, and they would produce a lot of vibration, which would tend to damage the building over time. So the building was built right on the rock. Nothing's going to damage this rock, and that would help to stabilize the building and keep it from shaking apart due to vibration. We're in the cider mill building now, and I'm standing in front of the cider press right here, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how the cider press works. It gets its power from these leather belts, which are connected to the power pulley or the driving pulley. The power is transferred along the rotating belts to the driven pulley right here. The machinery is not yet engaged, the gears are not turning because I haven't moved those belts to engage this mechanism. And I'll do that now. I move this one lever, that shifts one of the belts, and it starts the machinery moving. The gears are spinning and the press is going downward. It moves very slowly because you have to give time for the juice to travel out of the pulp. When the press is complete, I stop it with this lever and I engage the other belt to move the press back up again, getting ready for another squeezing. We're in the machine shop, blacksmith shop now. This was a multi-use room because they would take in outside work, but this was also the mechanic shop for the mills. And if you look around you, You see all sorts of tools here on the walls, hung here and there. Some are old, some are new, all of them useful, and all of them used at one time or another. This part of the mills gets its power from this belt coming up through the floor to this long axle overhead, to which are attached all sorts of belts and pulleys that you can see spinning. The first one we come to is this big grindstone. Grindstone, a very important tool in a machine shop, is used to sharpen our tools, and it could be used also to make metal parts and to put an edge on metal parts to fine-tune them. If you look right here, got a nice sharp edge on that axe now because I have a nice grindstone to sharpen it with. Going over here, again, if you look up above, you see the various pulleys and belts transferring power, increasing speed, decreasing speed, reversing the direction of the rotation. We go over here to this drill press. Drill press is particularly interesting because up above you see that it has a pulley in this plane bringing power down the belt to a pulley in this plane and moving along to a pulley in this plane. It changes direction twice. It turns at 2 right angles. You can do anything you want with belts and pulleys. It just takes a little bit of imagination. Now we're in the intermediate level of the mill, and this level is mostly used to transfer power from one part of the mill to another. Mechanical power with setups like this, we've got big belts and pulleys and long drive shafts. You run into different sort of problems than you do with today's modern electrical equipment where you just have to throw a switch to turn it on. Right here, we have a driving pulley down below the floor, turning this belt to this big pulley up here. You'll notice the belt is very loose. When it's loose like this, it won't do its job. It won't be turning this driving pulley. So we have to have some means of tightening it up, and we have that means. Right here we have what's called an idler pulley, and I'm going to lean it up against the belt. Now you notice that the belt is nice and tight, and now it will do its job. We're up at the 3rd story of the mill complex, folks. We're up where the sawmill's located. You'll see this gigantic 54-inch diameter saw blade right here. That is by far the most powerful tool here in the complex. It takes a lot of water power to operate it. If you don't have enough water power, it won't operate very well. It won't cut very well. Luckily today we have a lot of water, so we should be in good shape. These open the floodgates down at the turbine, which is 3 stories below us. I have to open the floodgates enough to give us 500 RPMs on the saw blade. It's very, very important that the saw blade be operating at the proper RPMs. Now I know from past experience, looking at this telltale on the wall over here behind me, as I open the floodgates, that red marker will move, and I'll know that when I get to about the 5/8 position, I'll have enough water flowing through the turbine to give me 500 RPMs. I have a secondary indicator over here, a tachometer that's actually measuring the RPMs of the saw blade. When it gets to 500, I'll know that I'm turning the saw blade fast enough to begin my cut. And now we'll do exactly that, and here we go. Turning on the power, opening up the floodgates. The blade starts to spin, and I'm looking at the telltale over my shoulder here now. You see the red markers moving. Down it goes. Right about there should be good enough to give me 500 RPMs. And I'm going to check that on my tachometer now. I'm looking for 500 RPMs. When it gets up there, I'll start my cut. And here we go. Folks, we're at the end of our tour now, and every time we give a tour, we like to give our customers something to go home with, a little memory of us, a little memory of the mill. So in this case, I have a brand here. It's the brand of the Millet Green Hole, and I have over here I have a red cedar coaster, and I'm going to brand this coaster for you to take home. And here we go. Okay, I've got the nice hot brand right on that coaster, and you see the smoke coming up. You know it's nice and hot. And here we go. Here's your coaster to take home, the Millet Green Hole. Thanks for coming, folks. It was nice to have you here.